Hey guys, welcome back to Stuff and Things for your daily dose of nerd news. On today's episode, we take a look at the possible solution to the Bigfoot question, and a really old skull makes us rethink where exactly humans came from. So first up, if you ask someone whether they believe in Bigfoot or not, that's kind of a relationship-defining question. Some people take that very seriously. I know they joke about it in How I Met Your Mother, but it's kind of a big thing. A lot of people take the idea of Yetis, Sasquatch, Bigfoot. They think it is actual truth, and that we just haven't discovered the right answers yet. But of course, over the years, any sort of evidence that has popped up has been absolutely terrible. Nothing's ever been correct. It's all just been people trying to make a quick buck. So comes along Brian Sykes, a British geneticist, with his possible theory, all that, on what they could actually be. He put out an open call asking for people to send him in samples, hair samples specifically, of what, Yeti and stuff like that. A couple different samples came in, and he cross-referenced the actual genetic tags and everything from those two samples across a 40,000-year-old jawbone that is believed to belong to an ancient relative of the polar bear. It seems the hairs he discovered were, actually linked to this 40,000-year-old species of polar bear. So great, cool. These hair samples that are supposed to come from reputable sources seem to match this ancient bear. But then that also raises other questions, like, are these samples reputable? They actually happen to just coincide and be the same species? Any sort of evidence in regards to Yetis and Sasquatch and all that have always been, like I said, terrible. So it automatically puts that under, irreputable circumstances and such. Doesn't look good, really. But if it is true, how could a creature like a polar bear even survive in these kind of climates? I mean, if you're looking at Western Canada and the United States, very understandable. There's a lot of open area, there's a lot of, game available to them, deer and stuff. But if you're talking about the Himalayas, that's pretty extreme environment for something like a bear to live in. I know, it's kind of interesting, but it just doesn't quite seem right to me. And moving along, an 8-year study has culminated in the unveiling of a 1.8 million year old skull. This particular skull was found in Georgia back in 2005, and that, according to the authors of the study, this skull does require us to rethink what we believe and what we've come to accept is the origins of man. See, the authors of the study think that this skull, along with the other 4 discovered, all exhibit various traits across a bunch of different species, a bunch of different homos that we just consider to be separate, but they're all in the exact same area along the exact same time. They seem to represent a singular population, which would then lead them to conclude that all these various species that we think up make up the weird, twisty family branching tree that makes up what we eventually came to be Homo Sapiens, to actually just be a much more straighter path. Of course, anytime you kick over that hornet's nest, you get a lot of people against that, and it's already started, which is a natural process. This is how science works. Somebody presents some evidence, and they get their hypothesis based on the evidence. Then other people review the evidence, and then they form their own hypothesis, and they argue against it. And eventually, hopefully, some sort of truth is discovered. So if you just take a minute for a second here, it did take the initial group 8 years to come up with their findings regarding these skulls. So realistically, it could take anywhere from 8 to even longer number of years for us to even fully digest what this means, where it can go from there, and who knows, maybe along the way, when they're still debating this, another skull will pop up, maybe an older skull, maybe a younger skull, maybe another whole tribe of skulls will appear, and all our questions will be answered. Except that's not quite how it works. Without a time machine, we're never gonna know exactly for certain, and even then, we'd probably screw things up anyways. But similar to the whole Bigfoot argument, whether you think the scientist's hypothesis is correct or whether you think it's not, you can't really get angry. It's not quite the way the science works. If you don't agree with them, great. Don't agree with them. Come up with your own hypothesis, come up with your own rational reasons why you think such a thing is the way it is, and explain it. And maybe you'll actually change some people's minds. But guys, that'll do it for me today. What I really love to know from you is if you actually think the majestic Yeti actually exists. Me, I'm a little on the fence about it. I just need evidence. I want evidence. I'm sorry. I want good evidence. That's how I work. Let me know in the comments down below what you think. And of course, if you like what you've seen, do not forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons. We're in the happy to be. And we'll check you in the next video.